everyone, this is Basil the Ortho Biker. So it is taco time. I'm going to take a break from looking for corn tortillas for tacos, and I want to talk to you about a recent upgrade I did to the motorcycle. On my trip to Chattanooga and the Tail of the Dragon, I had an oops occur that kind of got me thinking and warranted an upgrade to the motorcycle. And that upgrade is some crash protection from Bung King. So we're going to discuss the oops that occurred and why I think you should get your crash protection from Bung King for your Sportster. So when I was coming back from Tail of the Dragon, I visited Crossville, Tennessee first to visit a friend of mine from high school. And on my way south from Crossville, I believe it was Highway 127, but do not quote me on that. GPS decided to... Why is this guy going so slow? GPS decided to take me in a different direction all of a sudden. And if I have not learned my lesson from GPS in previous rides, GPS tried to kill me. But we'll get to that. So I take a left off the highway, cut through a neighborhood, and one of the first things I see of note was a big sign saying no trucks. I'm like, oh, okay, there must be a tight space that a truck can't either turn around or get out with. After a few minutes I take a left, and there's this big giant red and white arch in front of a road I was turning onto. It was like a spaceport. I mean, that's how big it was. It stood out. It was very prominent on the road. There's no way to miss it. It said no trucks. It's like, oh, well, okay. So I go through that. I go down the road a ways, and it looks like the road disappears to the right. And I'm thinking, oh, there's a switchback down here. That's why there's no trucks. Well, I get down there, and it's not a switchback. It's a hairpin. Well, the problem is there were no signs announcing what kind of turn this was. And I was not expecting it. I'd never been on this road before. And I was not well positioned for a hairpin turn. And truth be told, I've never actually been on a hairpin turn. So I slowed down ever so slightly, and I increased my turn radius a little more sharply than what it was to avoid the oncoming car. And train tracks. Oh, okay. And while I did avoid the oncoming car, I did not have enough momentum to carry myself through the rest of the turn, and I laid the bike over and I went over the handlebars. So I landed face down, downhill, and the bike landed on top of me, skidding downhill on top of me. And all in all, the only thing that really got damaged was my pride. Most of the damage to the bike was fairly superficial, just some scratches, a couple grind marks, maybe a tiny dent in the oil tank. I'm really not concerned about that. I can always massage it out later or just leave it be. Adds character to the bike. But somebody got out of their car and walked uphill and helped me pick up the bike, because there's no way I was getting it up off the ground on an incline like that. Rolled it up the hill and out of the way. Traffic continued. I gathered my things, got back on the bike. It ran funny for a bit because oil seeped into places I'm sure it wasn't supposed to, but after a while it was fine. I rode the bike home another 900 miles or so, and I haven't had any issues with it since then. The battle scars still exist on the motorcycle, and I think I had a sprained ankle and I pulled a muscle in my chest, but you know, minor things in comparison to what could have happened had I not corrected sooner than I did. But it was after that incident that I decided I need to get me some kind of crash protection. Now, to be honest, I don't like most of the crash protection that's out there. Most of the crash bars people get are off Amazon or eBay or Chinese retailer or something like that. I mean, yes, there's options on JP Cycle, but there's not really a whole lot of different styles or what have you. And I don't like those giant loops of metal sticking out the side of my motorcycle. And what's more is I've heard stories from people who have had those types of crash bars because of where they attach on the front of the motorcycle or on the frame. When they laid the bike down, that little point of contact between the crash bar and the frame bent, and because it was attached to the frame, they saw the frame as bent and therefore totaled the motorcycle, even though there was nothing else wrong with it. It wouldn't cover the damages after that. And I just don't see that or want that happening to this bike because of all the time and effort and blood and sweat I put into this motorcycle. So I looked for alternatives, and the main thing that stuck out to me and was recommended to me, and also something I see on almost all of the bikes, all the stunt bikes anyways, on Sporty Mob, were Bung King. Oh my gosh, get off the road. Oh. Anyways, I kind of lost my train of thought back there, and I'm gonna start over. Doo-doo-doo. I wonder if Allen's has soft corn tortillas. Desperately need them. Alright, so Bung King, take 2. So I did get the Bunking Bar, which is fairly low profile in a sense. It just looks like a bar on the front of your motorcycle where you put your feet. But the bar does work. And how do I know this? 3 days after I put the bar on, I laid the bike down at the end of my driveway. And those who have been watching my channel for a while know I live on top of a very long gravel driveway, and I guess some trucks had kicked up some rocks at the end of it between the time I got home and the time I left. And I ended up on top of one of those large rocks. The front end of the bike rolled to the left. Once that 550 pounds starts moving to one side, I'm not going to stop it. So laid the bike down. Bike fared fine. The only damage was my license plate. The license plate got crushed. I got accordioned. The plate holder got snapped in half. So it's currently being held together by zip ties. And I had to flatten the hammer on my workbench with a dead blow. So it's there. It's kind of holding it up. So after that happened, I got there's sliders that attach to the passenger peg brackets, which if anybody rides a Sportster knows, those passenger peg brackets are beefy. They're basically fixed pegs with Delrin sliders on the end of them. So next time that happens, because I'm sure it's going to happen again, my license plate will be protected and I don't have to worry about flattening that sucker out again. In addition to that, because I'm a midget, I got some reach reducers for my Bunking Bar, because one thing I learned on my road trip to Chattanooga is while this bike can do long trips, my knees cannot. And I didn't really have a good way to stretch out my legs. I found ways to do it, but with the reach reducers, I can put my feet out, reach the bar, and ride comfortably for a bit with my legs extended to give my knees a break. So I really, really like everything about Bung King crash protection, because they all kind of have a dual purpose built into them. And anyone that knows me, I like everything with a multi-purpose or multi-use to it, which is pretty much everything I buy. So Bung King products in that regard fit perfectly well within my requirements for things I normally buy in general. What is that? The scooter trike? Really? Why do you need a trike on a scooter? Why do you need a trike on a scooter? It's already... Oh my gosh. Anyways. So yes, I got crash protection for the motorcycle because I'm a dum-dum. And Chattanooga doesn't mark their hairpin turns. Alright, so instead of me running my mouth, let's go ahead and get off this road up ahead and see what these bars look like on the motorcycle. I seriously think I'm going to do a long-term review of the exhaust at some point, because it really does change the character of the motorcycle. But hey, we're not here to talk about the exhaust, we're here to talk about the crash protection. So as I said, the Bung King is fairly low profile, and when we look at it from the front, I mean, yes, it's crash protection. You probably can tell with the Delrin sliders on it. It's very sturdy. There's 2 bolts that connect here on this side, 2 bolts on that side. It's very simple to install. If you can, I'm not going to touch the exhaust, but if you can get this bolt in on both sides, just pivot the whole frame up, get the top bolt on both sides, make sure you attach the Loctite, tighten it down, you're good to go. I mean, this thing's really sturdy, and as you can tell, it's a pretty beefy construction. Moving back to the passenger peg sliders, instead of being angled like the actual passenger pegs are on the bracket, they're flat on the back, so they sit flush with the peg bracket and they don't move. So the only caveat is whenever I'm walking the bike, the back of my leg hits this frequently, so walking the bike is a little awkward sometimes, maybe getting an uphill start, but it's fairly low profile. I know that Bung King also makes a slider that attaches to the top of the shock, which should be useful for protecting the lights. Here's some of the damage. You can see I scraped it up on one of the drops. And I don't think I would get the shock sliders unless I decided to put side cases or saddlebags on the bike, which this is a Sportster, it's not a bagger. I'm never going to put bags on it, but some people do, so that's a good option for those who do that. They also have a what they call a sky bar. It's one of these bars. It goes across at the top of the frame to protect the top end of the motorcycle, gas tank, probably more protection for the controls and so forth. But overall, I mean, for the little bit that it is, it provides awesome protection. My exhaust is protected, and I'm hoping that my license plate will be protected. As you can see, I kind of snapped it in half already. Kind of crumpled license plate there. But yeah, so if you ride a Sportster, I highly recommend getting the Bung King Bar crash protection for this motorcycle, because it's really well built, really sturdy, and really solid, and it does wonders as far as protecting your bike for, I would say, I mean, the way I have it's probably more for slow speed drops and anything else. It might give it some protection on the highway, but full protection would require the shock sliders as well as the sky bar they offer at the top end of the front. Well, let's go ahead and get back on the road and get my final thoughts on these. So overall, I think Bung King is one of the best options for crash protection for the Sportster. It's non-obtrusive, it's fairly low profile, it looks solid, it looks great, it's very solid construction. Now, granted, the price of the Bung King Bar is a bit more, actually quite a bit more, than you get for any of those standard highway bars or loops or whatever you get from Amazon and eBay, where other people commonly buy them. But you get what you pay for, and I always look for quality parts to put on this motorcycle. That's why I usually buy from quality parts manufacturers and dealers like Deadbeat Customs, Lowbrow Customs, DK Customs, and so forth. And I'm going to add Bung King to that list of parts that I would highly recommend to anybody, anytime, every day, because these parts are solid. And one benefit this bar has over standard crash bars is if you do happen to damage it, you don't have to worry about like sanding and repainting or replacing the whole crash bar. Just replace the sliders. The sliders themselves are cheap. I always wonder how close that gets to the ground whenever I turn. I'm sure it's high enough where it wouldn't scrape, but I'm always paranoid about scraping hard parts on this motorcycle. Anyways, where was I? Yeah, so if you ever lay it down like I did here, just replace the Delrin slider thing. I think they're like 12 bucks or something stupidly cheap. So the actual crash bar is preserved, and you just replace the slider, go again. Anyways, thank you for tolerating my rambling. and I appreciate your watching this video. If this is your first time joining us, and you like what you see, and you like what you hear, and you want to join on any motorcycle shenanigans or misadventures, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and if you care to do so, share the video for anybody that might find it useful. But as always, keep the two wheels on the ground, the shiny side up, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't you turn in front of me. Stay, good truck. Tacos! Taco.